Hey everyone, and welcome to Masters of Innovation. This is episode 4 of the podcast, and I've got an amazing guest for episode 4, and that is Sahni of Meta. So Ira, thank you so much for taking the time.
Of course, it's a real pleasure. Thank you for having me here, Alex.
It's really great, and we're going to be talking about all of the things that you would expect with a conversation with Meta, Reality Labs, Metaverse, and the like. And I guess to start, it'd be really great to hear a bit about yourself. You know, you've been at Meta for a while, but you've actually got a full kind of B2B kind of history in this kind of space. So maybe you could tell us a bit about your kind of story.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I was born and raised in India, and I moved to the UK for my undergrad. Started my career in investment banking when Lehman Brothers was a name on the Wall Street, and then decided after spending a few years in private equity and finance that that was not something that my heart felt was my jam. So I decided to move to the US. I pursued an MBA. And that's really when, about now 12 years ago, I forayed in the B2B enterprise space. First at an insurance tech startup based out of San Francisco, and then later I moved with them to London. And when I was there, I remember getting a ping from this then VP at Facebook asking to meet with me for a coffee because he was thinking of bringing this platform called Workplace into the enterprise space. So almost think of a version of Facebook at work. When I first got that ping, I thought, wait a second, why would I ever get a job at Facebook? But at the same time, it was cool to walk into that office. And this is when I was interviewing.
Right.
And I see a whole crowd outside the Facebook meeting room because there's Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone.
Quite intimidating on your interview, right?
I was like, well, I need to nail this interview because if that's a day in the life of someone working at Facebook, I've definitely been missing out. They were actually at our studios talking about their movie, I think La La Land,
Sure.
it was back in the day. But anyway, so I meet with this VP. He's actually ex-Microsoft, and he said, look, you know, we define our culture at Facebook through this platform that we use internally, and I'm thinking of how do we actually bring it to the enterprise, and I would love for someone who's done partnerships and done scaling within B2B before. And so I thought, well, still doesn't make sense because I've done hardware and you're talking about a software product. But hey, you want me and I want to be here, so let's make it
I've seen
work.
Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling. I'm already sold.
That's it, exactly. And then here we are. This was 2016, so now almost 8 years ago, I've been at Meta. I started, like I said, building our channel ecosystem for our software product, Workplace. And then roughly 2.5 years ago, when the Workplace team merged into Reality Labs, which is the part of Meta that works on our Metaverse and our mixed reality products, I was asked to take ownership of our software and hardware portfolio. So in some ways, life comes a full circle in the sense that I now look after a team that is recruiting, enabling, and managing an ecosystem of partners across the globe that is helping bring our mixed reality products to the enterprise.
That's super cool. And you know, I guess, you know, Metaverse obviously was a hype term over the last few years. Obviously, Facebook famously changed their name to Meta. There's a lot of excitement, and there always has been in this kind of spatial world. I'm interested to get your thoughts on, you know, what is the Metaverse? For someone that's watching this, just to hear it from someone from Meta, what is the vision and what is the Metaverse?
For sure. Look, I'll start by saying that at Meta, we are focused on building the future of human connection. And what I mean by that is that we build products that truly help make people feel closer and present with each other, with their friends, with their families, no matter where in the world they are, right? And I mean this truly just taking the lens of Facebook back in the day, and then Instagram, and now WhatsApp. That's what we do day in and day out, right? And I think the physical world is great. Of course, it's amazing to go out there, explore, and be active. But at the same time, over the last few decades, our industry has been building this increasingly vibrant digital world in the form of apps and digital content. And so in our modern time, we think of the real world as this combination of the physical world that we inhabit and the digital world that we've been building. Yet, all this while, we've been consuming this digital world through screens. But we think that in the future, not very far from now, you will be walking into a room and there will be pretty much as many holograms of digital objects for you to interact with as there will be physical things. In fact, physical things that actually don't need to be physical objects, like this piece of art or your workstation or your screens. They could very well be digital holograms, right? And in the same way, in a social context, if you are hanging out with your friends, some of you will be present physically, but many others could be in the form of a digital hologram or an avatar,
yeah.
And they could pretty much feel as present as the others are. And for me, when I think about it in the work context, it really comes to life because when we were all working from home during COVID, a lot of us were 100% digital. And now we walk in a day in the life of our offices is some of us are present physically, a lot of us are present digitally, and then I'm sure in a few months you will see AI personas sitting around the table helping you get your work done. So that really is a glimpse of how we see the future in the way the physical and the digital world is going to come together into what we call the metaverse. And our core emphasis within Reality Labs in the last 10 years has been to build those foundational technologies that help people embrace the metaverse. Right? So what I mean by that is we launched Quest 3 last year. That is our hero MR device that allows you to experience this. And we are not just building the technology, we are also going to make sure that it is affordable and accessible to everyone because we truly think that MR has the ability to revolutionize the way we work, the way we live, play, and we really want to make sure that it's in the hands of as many people as possible.
With the human at the center.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the really great thing. And that's why I totally align with that vision because I think, even if we just say WhatsApp video, I mean, we take that for granted. Like we're able to call people around the world and connect with them at a human level through technology. And I guess that at Reality Labs, it's just an acceleration of that in terms of the way that we connect.
100%, 100%. I mean, for me, it's hard to explain this to my father, but you're spot on. He's in India. I speak with him on WhatsApp every other day. And at some point, it would be great to actually see him in a more immersive capacity.
Holographically.
Exactly, exactly.
Amazing. And I totally subscribe to that. And, I guess with Metaverse, there's a lot of misunderstanding about the use cases. I guess people think of it purely as a consumer device and a consumer kind of space, and that's not necessarily the case, right?
Yeah.
Both of us know from an enterprise perspective, there's a lot of value for these kind of mixed reality technologies within businesses. And I was just interested to know, like, what are businesses doing here? Like, what are the use cases for businesses where we're seeing these kind of mixed reality capabilities, these metaverse capabilities adding value?
100%, yes. And you're spot on. I mean, that's what we do day in and day out to bring the value of MR to really deliver tangible business impact. So I would say we're seeing at least 2 or 3 hero use cases already that enterprises are taking into account. The first obvious one is learning and development. So here, think about how companies are simulating real world scenarios so that people who do dangerous jobs, right? Like like airplane pilots or firefighters, they can practice in a safe environment. They're also running things like soft skills trainings, like customer role-playing engagements or onboarding new hires using MR. The second way we've seen businesses use mixed reality is with a creative and design lens. So here, let's think about building information modeling, where clients can inspect buildings' digital twin and spot design issues early on in the process. Or even within Meta, for example, we see product designers collaborate on 3D models, and they are testing virtual prototypes before spending money on physical mock-ups, as an example. And then, of course, the one that I think is very close to our heart is meetings and collaboration, right? Where technology really can transport you into deep immersive spaces and allow for better collaboration and more productive meetings, especially when not everyone can be in the same place. For example, during brainstorming sessions that we do very often with our colleagues that are across the pond, or during client presentations as well. So I would say these are three very obvious use cases that we are seeing already, enterprises already adopting it, and we are trying and helping them get to a point where we can scale them from a proof of concept stage to actually a more scaled deployment.
I think what's interesting with all three of those use cases is that the technology enables you to do something that you just couldn't do before, right? So for example, in that training scenario, you're able to put people in situations that it's dangerous to put them in normally, right?
Exactly.
And so to run more immersive simulations. The second one around collaboration, you're looking at a BIM model or a car design or something like that. Looking at it through a flat 2D screen is completely different to actually bringing that model into the room physically, digitally.
Absolutely.
And then the final one, right? Collaboration. Great, we can collaborate in person, we can collaborate online, but how can we bridge that gap to make it more immersive? I think that's great. And I guess when we talk about actual customers that are using this, I know you've been working with the likes of Lufthansa.
Yeah.
Maybe we could talk about what you guys have been doing together.
Absolutely. Look, Lufthansa is a great example of the B2B2C use case that we've actually started seeing a lot in the airline space that I'm happy to talk about, but also in the car manufacturing space, something that you just alluded to. So Lufthansa came to us quite recently and they said that, look, we would like to build an MR experience that allows customers to get a feel for our new first-class cabin seat without actually needing to sit on an airplane. So it's almost like try before you buy, but for an airplane seat.
And it's an expensive purchase, right? So people want to know what they're getting in for. Right?
Exactly. And it was funny when we asked them, how did you do this, traditionally? And the answer was that historically they would carry these physical seats to exhibits around the world.
The cost of that.
I mean, the cost, and that's not fun logistically at all. And so with this MR experience that we've developed with them, they've been able to put over 10,000 customers through to that experience in just about 6 months, saving, I think, almost 90% in costs. And while their impetus to use MR was initially for this B2B2C use case, they've actually now also started thinking, how do we get our staff trained using MR, especially a process like cleaning between an aircraft touching down and getting ready for the next flight? How do we make sure that the staff has got that muscle memory and the practice that they need
to be as efficient as possible?
Exactly. So I think that has been one of the better use cases where it's evolved from a B2B2C to now actually going into that training use case that we talked about earlier on.
It's super exciting, and it's unconventional. It's not something that you would necessarily think, but in terms of the value that they're getting, they're saving 90% on costs, which is crazy, right? The sustainability element of it, you're not actually shipping stuff around the world.
Exactly.
And then from a actual scale perspective, they'd be able to put 10,000 people, you said, through it.
Massive.
Which you probably wouldn't have been able to touch with a physical demonstration, right?
Absolutely.
Super cool. But, airlines are one, obviously the pharmaceutical industry using this. I know you've been working a lot with Pfizer as well. Maybe we could talk about what you guys have been doing. And I think that's a partnership that's been going on for a long time, right?
It has. It's definitely one of our super successful, impactful stories because, to your point, we started working with with them in late 2020, sadly, in the middle
I
of
wonder what was the partnership on that?
it was in the middle of a global lockdown,
Yeah.
and for Pfizer, it became a run to finding a vaccine that would save, millions of lives and help us get back to normal. And so once they developed the COVID-19 vaccine in December 2020, that was just the start of a very strenuous process for them to now train hundreds of new operators in order to build billions and billions of these doses of the vaccine in a pretty short period of time.
So they had a real business problem, right? They had a lot of new staff coming on board and they needed to onboard them quickly, right?
Yeah. Exactly. But then the issue was because the production line was operating under strict social distancing guidelines and they were running 24/7,
Sure.
You couldn't train that staff on the shop floor. And because the vaccine introduced a lot of complex new processes,
right.
They needed the employees to practice a lot more before they could gain the necessary competence. So they came to us and they said, look, we don't have access to the physical plant, so let's use our MetaQuest devices to build a digital twin in order to create that hands-on learning experience. They also translated a 100-page standard operating procedure document into a suite of VR training app in order to allow for that immersive training, if you will. And then by delivering that training away from the busy vaccine filling lines and by allowing employees to keep repeating those tasks in their free time, they were able to practice in a very sort of practical but less pressured environment.
When it suited them, right? They could do the training when, fit that into their existing schedules, right?
Absolutely. And so by the end of this, I would say in December 2022, they delivered 4.5 billion doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. And Pfizer absolutely says that training in VR really helped make that happen. Yeah. Because by translating or implementing VR in one of their production units, they were able to reduce training time by over 40%.
Wow.
And it translated to, I think, about $23,000 in savings for every trainer-trainee pair.
Wow.
And then they also went back and asked these operators if they wanted to learn this kind of content in VR versus traditional methods. And 87% voted in favor of VR.
They preferred the VR training.
Absolutely. Right? And so I think that partnership has now since evolved into how do we actually look at some other use cases of hard skills training that we can implement in VR, because that's the preferred method internally.
Totally. And it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because, it gives you something else. It's quite exciting. It's quite fun as a user, as someone actually going through the training. And the statistics are backing that up, right? Over 80% are saying that they would prefer a VR training than they would in a classroom. And we've all been in those classrooms where it's kind of sometimes a bit dry, a bit boring, but actually putting a headset on and it doesn't have to be super hyper realistic unless it needs to be. It can be a kind of a fun activity, right? And you can add some of those kind of gaming elements to make it a more fun and enriched experience, which is cool. And I guess Ira, your main focus is obviously in the kind of partnership space. You're working and supporting all of the partnerships that you have. Obviously, I work at Microsoft. Yeah. Microsoft and Meta. Maybe people don't realize that traditionally you might see us as competitors. Actually, are close partners in the Reality Labs division. And maybe you could talk about that. I can add my thoughts as well.
Please. Look, I'll start by saying that Meta is at heart a partnerships company. Our entire go-to-market thesis is about partnering with best-in-class companies to deliver a superior experience for our customers. We do not want to be everything to everyone, right? For instance, our partnership with Microsoft. We know that Microsoft has the best productivity suites out there, right? We are never going to compete with that. But we also know that Meta has the most popular mixed reality headsets. So if we can bring Microsoft's productivity suite in Meta's mixed reality environment for the customer, it's like amplifying the power of each. And that is what really makes us both best in class, better together,
100%.
right? And that's why we worked tirelessly with your colleagues in Seattle to bring Microsoft 365 and Mesh in our Quest App Store, because we want to make sure that now the Microsoft 365 customers can experience the portability and the flexibility while they are doing their immersive experiments using Mesh. So for us, it always comes down to what are we good at and where do we leverage where our other partners are good at, and just combine those two powers.
I think we have quite a lot of alignment on our cohesive visions, right? You mentioned at the start of the kind of conversation that everything is centered around the human, right? Supporting them. And in the collaboration use cases and scenarios we talked about, it's about bringing people together. I mean, that's coming from you. And then from a Microsoft perspective, obviously we have like one of the most ubiquitous platforms in Teams, and we're focused there on bringing people together and helping collaboration. And so being able to bring our Mesh capability, Mesh being the avatars and the 3D world capability within Teams, directly into the Quest platform makes things just so much easier. And to your point, you guys are absolutely leading in the mixed reality kind of headset, kind of area. It makes sense for us to partner in this space because you guys bring best-in-class hardware and services and management, and then we bring in all the kind of extra bits on top of that. So it's quite fun. Yeah.
You've nailed it. We call it 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah.
Let Microsoft do what they're best at, and let's bring the power of what we do, because we know how to build apps that people love to use, to your point, at the center of human connections. But at the same time, we know that the world is working on our Microsoft Teams. And so we don't want to be that.
Yes. No, exactly. There's no need to compete with it with people in different areas. It's better to partner.
Exactly.
And we totally agree with that. And I guess to the partnerships piece, there's strategic partnerships with the likes of Microsoft and Meta, but then there's also partnerships with independent software vendors, ISVs, that are building solutions specific to different areas. So Meta, you have the best-in-class hardware. You do build your own software, but the reality is that for different specific industry use cases, it makes sense to partner with smaller ISVs on that.
Absolutely. I mean, I talked about the use cases earlier, right? Whether it is creativity and design or meetings and collaboration. We've partnered with Adobe's 3D modeler app because they are very good at that. And so we want to be able to get that experience in our MetaQuest App Store so that it can help creative people sculpt in VR. We are not going to build that ourselves, but we can partner with the company that is doing groundbreaking work there. In the same way, we partnered with Zoom, where you can actually join Zoom calls in workrooms, which is our first-party collaboration tool, but we want to give customers that choice. And then to your point around independent software vendors, we've been partnering with the likes of Tailspin, Facilitate. These are born in VR learning and development solutions, which offer both low-code, no-code solutions for companies to build immersive content in MetaQuest. So it's all about how do we expand the universe of technology partners, of ISVs, who can then build onto the use cases that enterprises have started adopting. And it doesn't stop at that. I mean, the one ecosystem that is very close to my heart is once you've built all these use cases, how do you then take them to market? And that's through our resellers and our distributors, right? Today, 100% of our business goes through the partner ecosystem.
You can't buy a MetaQuest directly from Meta.
For the enterprise,
For the
no.
enterprise, yeah,
yes.
exactly. Yeah,
you have to go through one of our partners because we truly think that they are the only way we can scale. And we treat them as an extension of our sales team. So what I mean by that is we are not going to hire hundreds and thousands of direct sellers or consultants inside of Meta. That's not how we will scale. We are going to scale through the ecosystem. And so we want to make sure that we can equip and enable that ecosystem on this new portfolio solution in their sort of slew of products that they sell to customers already, and how do we make sure that we can then scale through them.
Yeah, and then it becomes the platform where you can get all these different experiences and different platforms. It's quite exciting. And on the ISV front, I mean, there's so many exciting ISVs. I mean, virtual speech.
Yes.
I had a call with Sophie quite recently, the CEO, and it's such an amazing platform. And I was connected through Meta on that kind of conversation. It's just like, for anyone that hasn't tried virtual speech, it's an amazing platform where you put on the Quest headset, you're transported to a completely different place, and you're put in difficult situations.
Yeah.
Now, it started as speech training, so you'd be put on stage, and it feels like you're on stage, and it's quite almost nerve-wracking, and you've got to deliver, and it will give you kind of ratings. It also puts you in kind of difficult conversations. So one of the experiences I had, which was kind of game-changing, was I was put in a room and then I was told, okay, this person is your subordinate, they report to you. They've been, dodging all of your calls. You can't get in contact with them when they're working at home. When they're in the office, their productivity is way down. And so you're put in this difficult conversation. And then, I was like, what's going on and stuff like that. But as the conversation progressed, you realize that there's something going on in their personal life. And I took something away from that. I was like, well, my first question should have been, are you okay?
Exactly.
Is everything okay? Like, what's going? Because if their level was here and it's here, there's probably some reason for that. So even just from a quick experience, I kind of took something away from that, and that's from an ISV specific solution, but enables the platform, right?
And you've brought such a great point, because that is a use case that everybody has at some point in their week or month gone through personally, right?
Totally.
Having a hard conversation with a colleague, exactly what you said. And to be able to do that in an immersive way is just game-changing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're able to practice, have that first, like, let's say bad conversation that it didn't go
As a flavor of that.
Yeah, in a digital way, rather than doing it with a real person, which is really kind of important. And I guess in wrapping things up, I wanted to probably talk about what's coming and what's next. Obviously you've got the Meta Ray-Bans here, super cool piece of kit. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that, and obviously I guess this AI capability, you talked about it, maybe having these AI assistants.
Yeah.
Maybe we could talk a little bit about that tech.
Yeah, 100%. Look, as someone who works on hardware, I definitely am super excited about our smart glasses. We launched Meta Ray-Ban last year at Connect, our annual conference, and the feedback from consumers has been ecstatic. And in fact, even on the enterprise side, we've seen a lot of companies proactively reach out to us, because I'm sure you've seen this from your HoloLens days, right? But imagine how cool would it be if a technician had a pair of super light smart glasses with a camera and an AI assistant, and again at an affordable price,
yes.
right? Which is back to what our ethos has been. So that is definitely one that I am very keen to seeing how we can bring to the enterprise, because right now it's mostly available
and with
for
the AI
consumers.
assistants, I think what people don't realize is it's not just you're talking to the AI assistant. The AI has access to the camera, so you can say, what am I looking at?
Exactly.
And it can actually give you that context, which is really useful as well.
Exactly. And imagine in the workspace, like I said, taking that information and sending it back to, your third grade technician who actually knows what's going on, right? And your hands are free, so you're just using those glasses. So that obviously is super exciting. And then back to what you asked around AI, it's definitely our biggest priority for the year. And I think it's something that has been close to our DNA from the very beginning. I mean, look at the inception of newsfeed in Facebook. That was all AI driven. People forget that. I know.
This is the thing that, whenever I'm doing a talk on AI, it's like, I say, well, the first thing I ask is how many people in the room interact with AI every day? And usually you get about 20-30% put their hand up. Yeah. And I say, I think that everyone interacts with AI every day. They just don't recognize it as AI. Every time you scroll through a news feed on something like Facebook or Instagram, that's an AI generated thing. It's, it's understanding what you like and who you follow, and it's providing those contexts. Same with you go on a streaming website to watch a movie, like every movie that's recommended to you is done through an AI algorithm. People just don't recognize it as AI, right?
Exactly. So which is why there's this concept that AI is obviously, now emergent and omnipresent, but the reality is, I mean, our history goes back to your point on how we recommend the best content to our consumers using our AI models. But of course, we've now started launching things like Meta AI Assistant, which I think is on track by the end of this year to be the most used AI assistant in the world. It keeps getting smarter. We keep launching it free in many other countries. And then, of course, we are investing in large language models such as Llama 3.1 that we just announced this week. So I would say that is definitely a very, very exciting part of the business. And going back to what we truly believe in is making it open source.
Totally.
Unlike a lot of other companies that are going down the closed ecosystem route, we want to make this open source. We can make this more competitive because we truly think that it'll be better, more choices for the customers, the more open we are.
I think that the direction you've taken for Llama, I think, is really, really exciting. And I think the open source nature of it, I think, is really exciting, that customers can use it in different ways. And I think for the smaller developers, it's really powerful, being able to access this, like at no cost for the Meta AI assistant, and then the Llama, obviously the open source, people can build things really rapidly without all of that kind of red tape that they may otherwise have.
Exactly, and it's better and more choices for the customers at the heart.
That's the key. And Ira, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And if people wanted to get in touch with Meta or yourself, I mean, LinkedIn's probably a good way, I guess.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, you'll probably see my avatar there as well, but yes 100%.
Yeah.
It was amazing to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Appreciate it.